And we are back here on In the Huddle, and it's time to move on to the next topic that we have here on today's show. Because one of the biggest storylines that's plaguing the storylines in the NFL, and there's a lot of storylines and headlines in the NFL this week, clear. Lots of injuries, lots of news, but Dak Prescott, his injury, his thumb injury, of course, we got to react to that. But also, Zach, we got to talk about what the Cowboys should do because, when things happen, and it's a world thing, you have to figure out what's the next plan. How do we fix this issue that just randomly presented itself, right? You don't even got time to process, reminisce, or think. It's about what can we do to fix what just happened. And clearly, the Cowboys got some fixing to do as Jerry Jones backs Cowboys quarterback Cooper Rush amid Jimmy G trade rumors. Should both the 49ers and the Cowboys want to do this trade and make this trade happen? And Zach, I would love to start this one off because I think the way how the question is worded, the question really should be, should the Cowboys, the 49ers, and Jimmy Garoppolo want this trade to happen? Claire, these are not two parties here that can make this happen. It's actually three that will make this happen because he has a no trade clause, that being Jimmy Garoppolo. So he has to okay the situation and the deal. Now, that's what I can do in my process of elimination as I break it down. From the Cowboys' perspective, I didn't like the move initially. I remember you posted that GIF once the injury happened with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I was saying to myself, what is Zach thinking? Even the last show that we did, I'm like, hell nah. But then I thought about it, and that's one of the things I like about myself is that I think things through, and I see things from alternative perspectives to the point where I can see the other side. And when it comes to the Cowboys, they need a quarterback. They need a backup quarterback first off, because when you look at Dak Prescott, he's always getting hurt. Ever since that injury, one of the best attributes for Dak Prescott was his availability. That was the norm throughout his career. And ever since he injured his leg, it's the leg. It was the shoulder last year. It was like a injury scare a couple days ago in practice leading up to this game that he ironically played in. And now it's the thumb injuries. You need yourself a backup quarterback that's going to be able to be a great insurance policy to Dak Prescott. And if Dak Prescott is on a trajectory and stay on this injury trajectory, then why not have Jimmy Garoppolo? Because not only could Jimmy Garoppolo come in relief of Dak Prescott, he may over-exceed Dak Prescott and be your quarterback, because I'm not sure if you want to continue paying money to this guy that's going to continue to get hurt. It's not like he played well prior to the injury. So maybe you bring in Jimmy Garoppolo and he'll be the greatest insurance policy. You did so already with Andy Dalton. I believe he was a little bit expensive when you brought him in there as a backup quarterback, and that shocked everybody because we presumably thought he was going to be a starter somewhere. Well, he was your backup. I'm pretty sure you could, do the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's not about 6 games, 8 games. That's how I was viewing it at first. Like, why would I get him in there for 6 games? Nah, I'm thinking from a longer term perspective, you may want this guy to be on your roster, not only for a stretch, but for this season and next season and possibly in the future. Now, from the 49ers perspective, I think you need to get him out of there. I said it before. I did not like the move to bring him back because of Trey Lance's development. Claire, we saw that game week 1. I understand the weather conditions. He did not look great, but you have to be patient with his development. What you thought he was going to come out like Patrick Mahomes right out the gate? No, there's going to be some lumps and some bruises. So yeah, you want to get Jimmy G out of there so you can be patient and not be tempted to pivot to Jimmy G and risk throwing your future away because you thought he was your future. Now we get to Jimmy Garoppolo. And if we get to Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not sure if this would be a deal that I will okay. And the reason why I say so is because, do I want to make my ceiling a backup quarterback for good? Do I wait to see if Trey Lance struggles where, I'm already having the best job in America. I'm getting paid to be the highest backup quarterback. And in case anything happens, injury or bad play, I could come in and play for the 49ers and raise my stock and potentially get a better deal elsewhere. Or I could lurk around, see Tua Tagovailoa struggle, because we all know he's not the guy. At some point, the Dolphins are going to realize that and say, okay, I'll reunite with my former offensive coordinator, now head coach, Mike McDaniels, and take over that team. So there's other great lucrative situations, and the Cowboys have no talent right now. What are we talking about? So that's my take. So no, from a Jimmy Garoppolo perspective, I would say no. But from a 49ers and Cowboys perspective, I could try to get that deal done and try to convince Jimmy Garoppolo that that move was okay and best for all three parties.
Yeah, so I agree with you with the Cowboys, especially to start. They need a quarterback or else their season's over. And this team lost a lot of talent from last year. They didn't really add a ton. And I know that they have their philosophies about paying the players they drafted and keeping those guys there, which has worked in some ways. It hasn't worked in others. The thing with Jimmy is, I don't know if you could really view him as an option like towards after this season, because he's on a 1-year deal. Like, you're gonna have to, if he has a good 6 games, like he's playing for a contract. Like, there's a chance he gets himself another 3-4 year deal with another team. And unfortunately, Dallas has Dak under contract for the near future. But looking at the Cowboys' next few games, obviously they lose at home to Tampa Bay week 1, a brutal performance. They didn't even show up for the game. You're right. Even before the injury, it was one of the maybe the worst game I've ever seen Dak Prescott play. Like, they could not move the ball. And I know Tyron Smith was out, but it's not like that's something they learned like a short time ago. We've known he was going to be out for 2 weeks, and still they just did not look good. It was bad. But their next couple games, home Bengals this week, at the Giants, who all of a sudden look like they could be a feisty team now in week 3, home against Washington, who look good in their win against Jacksonville, and then at the Rams, at the Eagles. Like, that is until about the last week of October. I think Dak will probably be back around then, but that's a 5-game stretch where I think Dallas at least has to go 2-3. If you go 2-3 in that stretch, you'll go into that week 7 game against the Lions at home 2-4 with Dak back in an NFC East that isn't impossible to win. I don't think that would be crazy, but they have to take at least 2 of these next 5 games, and I'm not 100% sure if they will. So I think even with Jimmy G, by the way, if you're Dallas, you have to at least try to bring him in. From the 49ers perspective, I agree 100%. I said last week that I didn't mind the 49ers bringing back Jimmy G just because no one wanted to trade for him, and it wouldn't make sense for the 49ers to just cut him. Even if they had some doubts on Lance, just have him as an insurance policy until another quarterback gets hurt. And now that Dak is out for Dallas, like, this is a perfect opportunity for the 49ers. Trey Lance struggled in that game against Chicago, but the people that are calling for Jimmy G to play, like, are we just going to give Trey Lance the shortest leash of any rookie quarterback in the history of the NFL? I mean, this guy didn't play in 2020. He sat out due to the COVID season. And last year, he only started 2 games. And I know he didn't look great in them, but give him a full season. The 49ers gave up 3 first-round picks to draft this guy. You know, they gave up a lot. They're so invested in him. And I know that right now you can make the argument that Kyle Shanahan maybe should have taken Justin Fields, taking the FCS quarterback over the guy that was coming off 2 straight Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year awards was a little bit of a smug pick. But the 49ers made that pick. And I know Jimmy G got them to the NFC Championship game last year and a couple of years before that, but this roster is really good, and you don't even need Trey Lance to be great right now. I'm not really going to panic over a game played in a legit monsoon. So, yeah, if you're the 49ers, this has to be really the opportunity you're waiting for. And if I'm Dallas, yeah, you got to make the move. If I'm Jimmy G, I just want to play wherever I can the soonest. I know he has a no trade clause, and not every situation is similar. Not every situation is going to be better than one that could come up in the near future. But I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, they're still America's team. And if you have the opportunity out of nowhere to become their starting quarterback in a year where Mike McCarthy's fighting for a job, maybe they want to win. Yeah, I think that would be a good situation for Jimmy G, just that so he could play right away and try to prove that he's worth a 3-4 year contract when he hits free agency after the season. So, yeah, I think it's a move for all 3 parties that would win.
I got a couple things I would like to say, a reaction and a question following up that reaction, because even though you never really said anything outlandish or anything where I just like totally disagree with, it's very good points, especially on the Jimmy Garoppolo side. But when we get to that Jimmy Garoppolo side and stay there, it's like, okay, I get the fact that you brought it up, and I'm glad you did, that he's on a 1-year contract. So, you know, basically, I would say you will probably have a better trade stock playing rather than sitting on the bench, if you ask me. And I get that perspective, and why any opportunity, especially the Cowboys, when you think about it being the Cowboys and them having a couple weeks till Dak comes back, why you would jump on that if you're Jimmy Garoppolo. But at the same time, it's not like this team, to me, it's not a terrible team. Like, it's top heavy a little bit, but at the same time, it's not really that talented to me. And we know Jimmy Garoppolo from like a fandom perspective, where number one, he always had a great roster and he always had great coaching. Bill Belichick, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McCarthy's a big drop off. And it's like, you don't want to go to a situation where it's like, all right, this is not lucrative. Like, who's my wide receiver? CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup is out, where I could actually hurt my trade stock because we do have missing linemen and I could get hurt, in that sense. So it's like, if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think you have to just pounce on anything you see that opens them first. I think you have the best job in America for right now, and you can continue to have that job until you get another great job, and pounce on that, another great opportunity to be a starting quarterback for a team and that sort.
Yeah, I mean, I would just assume the competitor in him wants to play, like, even though that he does have a pretty good gig right now. Like, I do agree, but man, like, this guy was a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl last year. If I was him, I would want to be out on the field as soon as possible. And I know that he's done a really good job. He's been a good sport in this, just a very odd situation going on in San Francisco with him throwing before practice separately away from the team, and they restructure his contract. But my thing is, like, if he doesn't play the rest of the season and becomes a free agent, is any team going to give him like a legit 3-4 year deal for big money? Because I don't think so. I mean, no one wanted to trade for him this year. And I know he was injured, but still, like, I think if Jimmy G, maybe even though Jimmy G got San Francisco to the two NFC championship games and a Super Bowl, like, I think the narrative is like, oh, Kyle Shanahan was the mastermind behind the whole thing. Imagine Jimmy G goes to Dallas, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but let's just say it does. Let's say he kind of puts their team on his back a little bit and really kind of exposes the fact that, yeah, Mike McCarthy might not be the best coach, but I'm going to put him on my back and carry us. Like, in a bad NFC, I'm not saying I'd predict the Cowboys to make the playoffs if they got Jimmy G, but yeah, their chances would be way more likely if they did get him. And if Jimmy G somehow got Dallas to the playoffs and a division title, like, I think his stock is through the roof.
I think for me, I just had this funny feeling, and I was going to use this on my bold take segment that we had on the show. I actually think at some point we are going to see Jimmy G playing and on a 49ers uniform, being a starting quarterback. I just see it. It's not me overreacting to what I saw in a monsoon with Trey Lance. It's just inevitable. You brought him back. You're probably not going to trade him because it's clear the Cowboys are not interested in, Jimmy Garoppolo. And you can say from a perspective there, well, commit to running the football, something that you should have been doing with Dak Prescott anyway, and try to see if that can hold you down. And now the questions that you need to answer when it comes to Zeke and his future with the team. And if you should be paying him or continuing to pay him any type of money. So, there's some good and bad to each. But if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, I do see you being a starting quarterback for the 49ers at some point because, Trey Lance is going to struggle and he's going to do some good things. He did some good things in the game, but he also had it wasn't his best performance. I do think that somewhere Jimmy Garoppolo will be a starting quarterback. But, Zach, I do have a question, right? We got into Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers because, Claire, he's on a roster right now. And you saw those reports about the Rams lurking into Jimmy Garoppolo. We all know Seattle. There was reports that if he got cut, Seattle would jump on him. Do you think there was any fear in Kyle Shanahan's eyes and heart of hearts that if he released Jimmy Garoppolo, that one of those division rivals would have scooped him up? Or do you think that it was just, this is the best decision to bring Jimmy G back until I find some value back for him?
No, absolutely. It's a big reason why I said last week that I didn't mind the move at all for San Francisco to bring him back just because no one wanted him. And if you just cut him for nothing, like, you're not gaining anything. Just another team is going to get better. And now when you look at Kyle Shanahan, he has a trade asset whose value has gone up and it's going to continue to go up, in my opinion. The more time goes by, the more quarterbacks, we hope not, but it's inevitable. Like, another quarterback or two might go down, like we just saw with Dak Prescott. And now Kyle Shanahan could maybe get a draft pick back. And when it comes to Trey Lance and his situation, I know you have to be delicate with it because you're committed to him long term. And it's tough because even though you have no idea what he could do or not, you have a roster that I think the league thinks is good enough to win a Super Bowl. So it's interesting what perspective they look at it from. But yeah, I do think that Kyle Shanahan just didn't want to give him up for nothing. If they could have traded him and would have gotten like a 4th or 5th round pick back this summer, this offseason, I think Jimmy G would have been traded already. And that's why if I'm San Francisco, like I have no real hesitancy. Like if you could get a 4th or 5th round pick back from Dallas, like do it, because I think it's going to end a lot of questions, a lot of speculation in that locker room. And this is
a lot of distractions.
Yeah.
And a lot of distractions too at the end. Poor Trey Lance in that situation, because of course he's going to be the ultimate professional. He's going to say the right things in the media. He's going to say, like, I'm fine, Jimmy G being here. But, I will feel the type of way if it was myself. I'd be like, you still here, bro? Like, what's going on? So